So this past February, I got in contact with a good friend of mine, Brett Pantier, to help me out with my job shadow. Brett Pantier and I worked together last year at 88.1 The Berg. We worked together on Peyton Barron's show as well as doing different tasks for Jeff McMillan. And I also sat in on some games that he called for the women's basketball team with Pete Morgan. Brett Pantier and I were able to create a good friendship, as well as one can with a coworker. And so when you asked us to do a job shadow, I knew I would be able to use him to get in contact with someone to help me go on a job shadow for a job that I want to do. Now, for me, I've always looked up to sports journalists on all different spectrums. I've looked up to Al Michaels. I've read his book. To me, he is one of the greatest calls in sports history on the Miracle on Ice. I look up to Dan Patrick. I look up to Colin Cowherd. And I look up to other broadcast journalists like Bob Costas, Jim Rome. So for me, I know I've always wanted to do something in sports, whether that's radio, television, writing, some kind of job in sports journalism. So what I did is I got in contact with Brett Pantier, and he got me into contact with Jeff Height, who is the director of recruiting and training at KHQ6 in Spokane. KHQ6 is an NBC affiliate that broadcasts news, sports, and weather for the Spokane, Tri-Cities, Palouse, and sometimes even into Idaho areas. So I went over there and I followed Jeff Height around for about an hour. He showed me the station. He let me meet some people on the news team, sports team, weather staff, and I was able to go through, talk to these people, figure out how they did their jobs, figure out what I wanted to do. So after hanging out with Jeff for a little bit, he got me into contact with Sam Adams, and Sam was gracious enough to let me go there and work with him and his staff while they got ready to prepare for Sam going on to their 5 p.m. show, and then later when they had an 11 o'clock show where they would show highlights from the high school sports around the area and different things like that. So with Sam, they first showed me their script, how they set up their 11 o'clock show, the different sports stories, and how the staff would come in and just kind of plug in the stories as they went, how they would write these stories, etc. So what I did is I worked with Femi and Mark as they wrote their different stories. So I worked with Femi for about an hour where we worked on Gonzaga, a Gonzaga story that he was writing. And I gave kind of my perspective as like a college athlete compared to like what they believe. And that was a way of me working with Femi to learn how to write and create a story, how to pick video clips so that I can get rid of what doesn't need to be there and then I can put in what does need to be there. Then when I was working with Mark, he let me almost create a whole story myself with just kind of his guidance, which I thought was beyond extraordinary. They didn't have to do that. They were a great crew. And so what I did is I picked video clips. He showed me how to edit them. He showed me how to make sure that I edited the voice so that, or the audio track rather, so that the sound was clear. You didn't have to worry about it. Everything was good to go. So from there, I then wrote up a teaser, which would be what Sam read at the 5 o'clock news show. And then Mark wrote down what was left for their 11 o'clock show. After the sports staff had to head out on assignment, Sam took me in to watch the primetime 5 o'clock news show. So where they set me up was just off stage so I could see how everything worked. I got to see how the cameraman ran to set up their different shots, how the weather team worked with the news team, and how they were able to use different clips, talk about the stories at the best way for the viewers. What was eye-opening for me is how much running around the behind-the-scenes people had to do to like set up their shots so that everything looked and ran smoothly. From there, I went into the back room and I got to see people working on the board. That was cool for me because I just learned how to become a board op. So I've been doing board operations and running behind-the-scenes stuff at 88.1 The Berg to help set up our men's and women's basketball games. So it was cool to see this on a much grander level, how it was how one man and a couple crew members were able to run this whole news organization and make it run smoothly. After that, they were able to let me head out for the day. I was able to get in a full day and just really absorb and soak in as much knowledge as I possibly could. For me, it was really exciting because like this is a job I've always wanted to do. Since I was little, I would broadcast my own games. I would play by myself because I was too big to play football with my own brother. So what I would do is I would broadcast my own games. I'd do my own play-by-play. And it was cool because I got to see in a way how these guys did their own play-by-play and learn from real pros. I could take from them what I wanted, and it led to Jeff talking to me about possibly maybe an internship down the road, more job shadows, maybe going out with the crew on like a weekend to see how they handle high school sports games, different stuff of that nature, which I thought was beyond extraordinary. Him and his crew were amazing to me, and I couldn't ask for anything more than what they did. For me, on a professional level, I thought like as what attracted me to KHQ was the easy contact with Brett Pantier, and that this is something I want to do. I don't want to go to work and be like, oh, I have to go to work. I want to go to something I love. I want to go to do something I do that is fun for me. I'm going to talk sports anyways. That's just how I am. I'm a jock. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And so I might as well get paid for doing it. I might as well meet some people. I might as well go to these cool events, go to the Olympics, go to the Super Bowl, go March Madness, and just try and build my life up that way. And after going with his crew, I'm beyond excited. I can't wait to get into the field. I can't wait to get hands-on and start working more and more with these people because they were just a great group of guys and girls, and it made me just feel like, you know, this is a place and a job that I want to work in. If people are going to treat other people this way, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to live my life, and I can't wait to accomplish that. So I want to thank you for letting us go on this job shadow and letting me get this experience, and I really appreciate it.